Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Eden Road podcast, where on tonight's show we're going to be going over two more losses that really compounded the misery for Brentford fans over this kind of congested festive football calendar period. Joining me for that slightly depressing task are Craig and Dan. Craig, mate, how are we?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Dan, all good?
Yeah, all good. Not lost in 2024 yet.
Exactly. That's the spirit. Just before we get going, we hope you all had a lovely Christmas and a happy New Year, even though Brentford couldn't make it any better. Let's hope for a positive 2024, as Dan just mentioned. And just before we kick things off, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, remember to comment down below with your thoughts ahead of the Wolves game in the FA Cup and also Forest at home next week. Subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify channels and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Eden Road on Twitter and at Eden Road Pod on Instagram. Well, we've got two games to get through tonight. We'll start with Wolves last week, although we will keep it a touch brief just because it was a week 8 days ago. First of all, Craig, I actually went into that game with a little bit of hope, knowing it was under the lights of the G-Tech, knowing that Wolves were a team who, before the Chelsea game, were slightly out of form and their away form hadn't been great. They struggled in front of goal. But Nathan Collins, against his former club, seemed had other plans that day. Just talk us through the day, the game. Nathan Collins, it was just a bit miserable, wasn't
it? They could have struggled in front of goal that game, but we will never know, given the fact that we gifted them 3 goals anyway. Mm-hmm. So if we hadn't provided 3 assists for their goals, they probably would have struggled in front of goal the way that we expected them to. But a catastrophic performance from Nathan Collins, unfortunately, but compounded by some inept defending across the pitch, across that back line again. I just felt like it was kind of inevitable after the first goal, and then to concede so quickly again. I didn't feel like we was going to come back. I know we did get one, and you've made a point to go into it, but even with that goal, I didn't feel like we had any chance of coming back into that game. But, you know, Nathan Collins, he's so hot and cold, isn't he? I don't remember a mediocre game. I remember him having blinding games. Like, let's just think about the West Ham one where he's scored the winner. He was solid at the back, and there are many other games. Chelsea away where he was cracking. I thought he was really good when we played United away. I know we lost 2-1 in them last few minutes, but he was really good there. And then he was just shit against Wolves. And I know we're going to go into it again. I didn't think he was very good against Palace either. He just seems to have hot and cold, either really good or really bad.
Yeah, I think he was better against Palace, but certainly against Wolves, he was very, very poor. But I feel like the jury is out for him again after a few bad games. The last time this happened, and then he came back from injury and he was really good, and everyone was saying how good he was. And then after the Wolves game, it was like 23 million. What a waste of money! A record transfer. I just think sometimes a bit of an overreaction. There's definitely a player in there. We need to give him a bit of time to settle. But I mean, the Wolves game was just like, I hope he doesn't have another one of those games again this season. Otherwise, the jury will really be out for him, because that's just cost us 3 points with the 2 goals that he gives away. Dan, I thought Craig mentioned it, and I've put it in the rundown. I thought that when Wissa grabbed one straight back, it might be one of those nights where we get a goal straight away. The G-Tech kind of pulls it into the goal, but we just huffed and puffed in that second half. And we looked out of ideas, and Morpay came on and looked pretty poor. The second half just took me through it. It's just really frustrating when you're watching it, and it's just like, you know that you're not going to score, but you still have all of the ball and nothing's sticking.
Yeah, I think it peaked just after we got one back when Yanel had that header, and for a second I thought we were going to score 2 in 2 minutes, and obviously then it would have completely wiped it out, and it would have probably been the most crazy 4 minutes that the Premier League's ever seen. But it just got quite repetitive. We had the ball a lot. We were on top, but I never really felt that Wolves were like, I felt that it was quite easy to defend against. I never felt that they were worried about us. I think it just goes to show that I want these players to do really well, but I think some of the personnel at the moment, you can't really see many goals in the team. Wissa occasionally pops up with a decent strike, but he goes missing far too often for me. Morpay works hard, spends a lot of time on the floor. Will wind people up, but I'm not necessarily sure that he's the answer. He'll snatch at chances. Lewis Potter's obviously been a bright spark recently, but it's very early on for him. It's just very difficult. I think the spine of the team is there, but up front and full back, then it's just very difficult for us at the moment.
Yeah,
I think if you want to add, sorry, mate. I don't know why Wissers. There was a chance literally after he scored. I know you just mentioned Janel's header as well. There was a chance just after he scored where a ball's gone through to him in exactly the same position to where he's put it in the top corner moments before, and he's tried squaring the ball to Malpe, who's put it wide. I don't know why he didn't shoot. All the times he shoots from these poor positions, and we slander him for it, be it on social media, people's post-match reports. Then the chance he gets and he doesn't shoot. I've no idea why, as a striker, you're not taking that chance on.
Yeah, it's the thing. I do like Wisser, and I think we've kind of said on a podcast before that if someone's going through 1-on-1 in our team, I'd probably back Wisser the most over anyone. If like over Tony, over Mbeumo, over anyone. But he does. I see what you mean, Danny. He does just go missing far too often. I feel like, especially when there's no Mbeumo and no Tony to sort of be that focal point and someone that he can run off. When he's the focal point, or when Neil's the focal point, it's just there is no focal point. Let's just end off. I kind of want to talk about sort of playing out from the back especially at the Wolves game and at the Palace game as well. We'll get onto that a bit later, but especially at the Wolves game, the playing out from the back, the collective groans from the West Stand were just so deafening. I think Hwang's goal is so avoidable because we do try and play out from the back. Flecken gives a loose ball away, gets headed back in. He's got loads of time to pick a pass, and eventually it ends up at Hwang's feet, who does take the goal really well, to be fair to him. But without that focal point up top, when it's just Wisser and KLP and Neil, when they all have the collective height of just nothing, like the collective height's like 15 foot because they're all so fucking short, we struggle so much to get out from the back. And that's where I kind of feel bad for the back line, especially because they can't go long because it's not going to stick to Neil, it's not going to stick to Wisser, it's not going to stick to KLP, and they try and go short and it still doesn't stick. So it's like they're going to have to try and play out from the back, otherwise it's just going to give the ball away even faster. Do you know what I mean, Dan?
Yeah, to an extent. I think also, though, if it's clearly not working in the game, we have to try and find a solution. Obviously, I know it's not ideal at the moment because we haven't got our favoured players on the pitch, but I remember in the past that often it happens when we play a five in the back, but we've at times overlapped like one of the centre-backs at a goal kick just so they can get just past the halfway line and just win a flick on. And I don't know whether we could have maybe tried to do something like that. You know, drop Janel into centre back just for the goal kick, drop a midfield defender a bit further forward to knock it on, because it clearly wasn't working. Nathan Collins wasn't having the best day with the ball at his feet. And I just think you've got to try something different, perhaps, because it did just look too repetitive and we were too easy to play against and too easy to break down.
Yeah, Craig, the only shining light from that game was KLP. We said it a few games ago that he needed a goal. He got it against Villa, and since then he's been the best player in the team by a long way. It's not hard because we're playing so badly at the moment, but he has been the best player in the team. I think he is going to be really super important for us, especially now considering it sounds like Kevin Schade a longer-term injury when we thought he might be coming back at the end of December. It looks like he's not going to be in Thomas Frank's plans for at least another month. So I feel like and based on the last two games, I think, you know, he's in good stead to do that. I feel like he's going to be a really important player for us going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, look, if we're talking about the Wolves game, even if we had made the mistakes that we made, but we had a player like Ivan Toney on the pitch, I am of a firm belief that we still would not have lost that game. The amount of chances that KLP created, in that second half, 4 or 5 times where he's beaten the defender, pulled the ball back, and there is no one there. It's a tap-in. Ivan Toney would be that player on the edge of the 6-yard box, stood on the penalty spot, and he would have scored. He'd have scored 3 or 4 goals that game with the way that KLP was playing. But it just seems that our front three, when we get the ball, it's just run forward and hope that something happens, that we can create something. and KLP was creating so many things that no one was even preempting a cutback pass. It was almost as if the players don't trust each other at the minute, to the point no one will take a risk. There was nobody gambling on anything at all against Wolves. No one gambled. No one took a risk. It was playing safe football, boring football. At the end of the day, that cost us massively.
Yeah. I think as well with Neil, you mentioned it, Dan, how frustrating he is. And he could have played 10 times worse than he did against Wolves. I thought he did all right when he came on against Palace, but he could have played 10 times worse, and I still love him just because he's him. But those balls that you're mentioning, when KLP beats his man and sticks it across the 6-yard box or pulls it back for no one there, it's like, if you're not going to hold up the ball, at least be that person to tap it in at the end when the wingers do good work, like KLP was doing all game. So it is kind of just like, I really want Neil to do well, but Danny, are you kind of thinking that he's not the person to take us forward when we don't have Ivan Toney? I know it's such a stark kind of gap between quality and strikers, but I really thought that when he re-signed, if he'd have got like a couple of goals, I know he's got one so far, but if he'd have got a couple of goals straight off the bat, I thought it would have worked, just because he's a big confidence player. Are you not convinced?
I think he works very hard and he'll run around a lot, but I'm not sure he has those like real striker instincts to know when to be and where. And then often when it does come to him, he snatches at it and he doesn't take a moment to, really think about, what he's doing. He definitely spooned one wide. I think it was against Wolves, but the two games merged together at times, but I think it was against Wolves. I'm not sure he's a long-term answer. Obviously, we do love him. He's not a bad squad player to have, but I'm not sure he'll be getting into many starting 11s in the Premier League. And just because of his history of us, it's not necessarily enough, especially at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's sad, but I think you're bang on, to be fair. I haven't seen what I thought we would see, especially in the first kind of 2 games that he played for us. The one against West Ham where he was really good, and against Burnley where he was really good. Haven't seen him hit those highs yet. And maybe that's because we've got more injuries, or maybe it's just because we're in a downward slump and that's kind of affecting him too. But the last few games, it's annoying as well, because I think we mentioned that when he re-signed for us, a lot of people wouldn't know how good his hold-up play was for such a small guy. But some of, like, when he was up against Kilman against Wolves, it's like double his height. It's just never, ever going to get the ball and make it stick. And I think once he gets one bad one, it just kind of rolls over and rolls over.
It's really difficult. Yeah. I think even with Lewis Potter, I can't be 100% convinced on him just yet. He's had 2 really good games, but it only takes one setback. It took him a long time to get to where he has been in the last 2 games. It only takes one setback to go back there. It seems like he's playing with more confidence now. I just need to see it sustained now for a little bit, a longer period, so I can be convinced and I can trust him. I think too many of the current starting 11, I don't fully trust. Like Nathan Collins has had some very good games, but also very bad games. And especially for a centre-back, you want to be able to trust him. Like Pinnock, it'll be very, very rare if he makes a mistake. Although he did almost score an own goal from miles out again, didn't he?
You both just highlighted our problems of playing out from the back. You've just said we've got Maupay up against Kilman, who is double his height, can't play out the back because he can't win anything in the air. We was making jokes against the Wolves game, saying play it long, let Maupay use his height. He can't. Like when we're not trusting our players. Dan just rightly said, Pinnock's obviously nearly scored no goal. Would have been a cracking finish had it gone in, but it didn't quite make it. But because of the performance against Wolves, I kind of felt like people were a bit hesitant to put Collins in that predicament again, where a lot of the time he just got rid of it. He just got rid of it, which is what we really needed from him against Wolves. But you two have just highlighted our problem as to why we can't play long. We have to play out from the back. Yeah,
I just think with the height, and I've kind of felt like saying in that when we were in the West End and people were getting so angry at Fleck, and just fucking get rid of it. It's just like, where is he supposed to go? Like he has nowhere to go. The collective height of the front 3 is nothing. If he goes long, we're going to lose it. If he goes into the middle, we're going to lose it. It's just he's got nowhere to go apart from to go short. And we'll talk about.
We're going on to Palace in a second. But the amount of slander that people were giving Flecken around me what for not playing the pass right or for not releasing the ball at the right time. We must have all watched that game. I'm assuming you two were there or you watched it one way or another, but it was so static. There was no movement. We have no height. People were groaning at Flecken for whatever the fuck they were groaning at him at. I don't even know what they were moaning at him at. He couldn't do anything. Yeah, he's not that actually bad with his feet. He had one slip, and that was against West Ham, and he still made the pass out. He fell over, and he still made the pass. I trust him with his feet more than I trust him with his hands at the moment, unfortunately.
That's not a good sign. We've got to talk about Flecken because I feel like if the jury wasn't already out, it's so far out now. I mean, everyone says that he's terrible. We should address it because it's the talk of most games, and I know we like to defend him. But Craig, I'm going to put you in a predicament now because I'm going to start some Flecken slander. He is statistically the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League, and I've seen this now, and it's by a long way in terms of goals prevented and goals expected against, and the ones that he actually saves. So I am not one to go and shout about it on Twitter afterwards, and I don't think that's right to do, and I would never do that. And I feel like the people that do that need to take a look at themselves and be like, well, what are you doing? The only thing that you're bringing about is negativity. And that's not being a happy clapper. It's not being a look how far we've come merchant. It's nothing like that. It's just saying like, these are the facts. Maybe we have missed in terms of this one in the transfer window. Maybe we have.
I feel like it's fair and unfair to put him in the position that he's in at the moment. You know, we're going to talk about save percentages and things like that. You're then going to use those stats to try and justify the goals that we conceded against Palace and we conceded against Wolves, of which the Wolves one where he's given the ball away, probably should have done better with that one. That's on him. The other 3 goals, people are going to say he could have claimed the cross. The last 5 games that we've played, we've conceded that exact goal. There were 4 defenders against Wolves. There were 5 defenders, I think, against Palace. How is that the goalie's fault when the defense can't deal with that ball? I understand Godos is not a fullback. He doesn't know how to deal with that cross. So fucking make the adjustments in your back line to deal with that ball going to the back post. Okay? That, for me, any goal that we concede like that, anyone who blames the goalkeeper is an idiot. They don't really know how to defend or how to deal with those crosses. The team doesn't seem to know how to deal with it. Now, if we're talking about statistics, one statistic has come out. Arsenal Fan TV, AFTV, actually posted the lowest save percentage of goalkeepers who have played a minimum of 10 games this season. Unfortunately, Flecken's in the bottom 5. He is not bottom, though. So we've got Sheffield United, West Foderingham, Palace, Sam Johnston.
The way you framed that was hilarious, by the way. Go on, carry on.
Then we've got Flecken. Now Flecken's got a 62.2% save percentage. There are 2 goalkeepers with a lower save percentage than him. One of those is a player that Brentford fans so desperately want to recall to this football club. With the lowest save percentage in the Premier League is David Raya.
Yeah. Well,
what answers? What answers does David Raya solve based on the way that you phrased the question as well?
Well, no, I'm not saying bring David Raya back. I'm just saying that we might have. Listen, there's 2 sides to this coin. There's a side that one says that he's statistically the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League, and there's another that I'm looking at some of the goals he concedes, and I'm thinking something's not right there in terms of the goals that in terms of the goals that David Raya would prevent, where the ball's not too far away from him and he could dive and make the save. I'm not seeing that in Flecken, and it's just like it's difficult because I don't want to blame it all on Flecken. The defending's been horrendous. Dan, you want to come in at this point?
Yeah. I'm very much waiting for Flecken to just have a game where I think he's got us a point there. He's got us 3 points there, because every goal we concede, that it's not a glaring error most of the time, and you think fair enough, it's gone in. But occasionally it'd be nice for Flecken maybe to dig one of those out, and us all to think, yeah, he's got us a point there. I think in regards to Raya, his standards have definitely dipped this season than compared to with us last season. I don't expect Flecken to be as good as Raya because obviously we sold him for Arsenal for a reason. But maybe I expected him to have at least one game by now where you look at him and think you've won us a game there, because you often get that. Even like Sheffield United with Fotheringham or Burnley with Trafford, I don't think they're too keen on him, but you can tell that he's made some really good saves this season and he has kept them in some games. And I'm not sure we've seen that yet from Flecken, and I want to see that from him. It's a bit frustrating, but yeah, I'm not quite on the side of get him out. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think we've got to keep the faith in him for now. I don't think he's going anywhere for at least this season. Yeah, it's difficult. I just want him to just have one of those games.
Yeah, I feel you make a good point in terms of other goalkeepers as well having blinders. I don't think it's unfair to say that I don't think I've seen Flecken make like a spectacular save so far this season. And in terms of what David Raya would give you, he would make a few spectacular saves in a season. Right, Craig? But stop. But it's not about David Raya. As Dan pointed out, I've seen Thomas Kaminski for Luton make some spectacular saves. I've seen Wes Foderingham for Sheffield United make some spectacular saves. And I've seen James Trafford for Burnley also make some spectacular saves. And those are the three clubs that came up. And we're the team that was pushing Europe last season. So what I feel like is that technically we took one of the best statistically goalkeepers in the Bundesliga last season. And for whatever reason, he does not look like that right now. Would you not agree with that? Would you not agree with that?
I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. However,
okay.
our defensive frailties have ruined him. Unfortunately. Now, maybe it's selective memory. You guys don't want to remember it. Now, Collins and him had a mix-up against Crystal Palace, didn't they? And it might have been Anderson that scored for Palace. Everyone has conveniently forgotten the great double save he made from a corner, where he's managed to scoop one out from under himself from their header, and then he saved the rebound again. But Mike, you forgot that one. I like how you forgot that one.
There's just not enough of them.
He's made. But you don't remember a save that he's made. Yes, okay. We need to stop comparing him to David Raya. I'm guilty of doing it as much as everyone else is. We need to stop comparing him to David Raya. To say Brentford are known for saying that statistics lie. Yeah, the statistics lie as well. To say that he's the worst goalkeeper in the league is stupidity. It's a lie. It's just an outright lie. I've said it in a previous pod. This is a league that has Onana playing for Manchester United, and he's a fucking idiot. So if you think he's the worst goalkeeper in the league, you're lying to yourself, you're lying to other Brentford fans, and you're putting grief on a player that does not need grief at the moment. He needs backing. He needs us to support him. He knows he hasn't been good enough this season. He knows he's made mistakes. He knows that he should be saving some of the goals that we've conceded this season. And I doubt it. I doubt that he thinks he's had a good game at all this season as well. But to argue the point he's the worst goalkeeper in the league is wrong. We know we signed him for a reason. We've on social media, things that people have been questioning the transfers that we've brought in over the recent years, and even the recruitment team themselves. We've been questioning the recruitment team, but there is a reason that we bought this goalkeeper in. A reason we bought this goalkeeper in, because we know he is good enough. So why don't we just try backing him? Back him for once.
It's not going to happen.
You know,
it's not going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen.
He needs to have like 10 amazing games in a row for the fan base to turn it around. Because against Palace, after every goal, I heard someone saying, "Fucking Flecken, why can't you save that?"
But I don't know how. I don't know how you can blame him for some of those goals that we conceded. Like I just want to throw it out there. I know he's not you shouldn't put your team on one player. But I was just having a look while we were talking. Rico Henry got injured against Newcastle back in September. That is ACL. Everyone knows that, unfortunately. Since we lost Rico Henry, we've lost 3-1. We've lost 3-0. We've lost 4-1. We've lost 3-1. we're losing games by these big score lines as to which I don't remember us doing really last season. We've won 3 times since Rico Henry got injured. And that is, what is that? That's West Ham at home, Chelsea away, and Luton at home. We've won 3 games since we lost Rico Henry. I'm not saying we're a one-man team, but also he completely changes the dynamic of our defense. He completely changes the dynamic of our attack. We have to replace players like Rico in this transfer window for us to get any kind of performance that we expect out of the goalkeeper. You have to solidify your defense. You have to solidify your defense to build confidence in your goalie, and it works both ways. Once your defense is confident in your goalie becomes confident in defense.
Yeah,
your fans become confident.
Yeah, you make a good point with the fullbacks as well, because I feel like that's a key part of how we want to play in terms of when Flecken has the ball, is pinging him out to the fullbacks. And when you've got Godos, who for all that he does well, wouldn't beat a man, and Ruslev, who wouldn't beat a man, and then you've got Aaron Hickey, who would, and Rico Henry, who would. It's a stark contrast to what he started out with, and that's probably where all the instabilities come from. Right, let's table the Flecken chat. We're done with Flecken for now. It really does make me laugh, like scrolling through Brentford Twitter after a loss. Just like you made the point about people in the recruitment team now getting stick. Phil Giles is now the target of all abuse on Brentford's Twitter, which I just find absolutely hilarious. But let's go on to Palace. I tweeted after the game that the first 2 minutes were fun. And I feel like, to be fair, the opening sort of 40 minutes, even when we were drawing 1-1, I felt like we were actually playing some decent football. I thought Ruslev was playing really well down the right-hand side. It was good to have Jensen back in the side. We had a good bit of possession in their sort of attacking third, which I hadn't really seen against Wolves. What I had seen against Wolves, but there wasn't any substance in those attacks. It was just sort of, we were just in their third, passing the ball from left to right. Am I being too generous that I thought we played well in that first half, Dan? I mean, the second half we huffed and puffed again, and it was the kind of repeat of what happened against Wolves. But am I being too generous in the first half?
No, not to an extent. I mean, the goal, first of all, was really, really good. Jensen's back heel, Ruslev, great cross, and then a lovely first-time finish from Lewis Potter. I mean, that was brilliant all round. Like Ruslev, you don't really associate him with that. Lewis Potter, obviously now he's got 1 goal. He can do those types of finishes. So that was really good. I just thought their goals almost came out of nowhere in a way. Like if they had an attack, they just kind of get through our defense and all of a sudden they scored. It doesn't help having Godos at left back, because he's not a left back. It's not his fault. He's just not a left back. And I think Elise came from behind him for their first goal. And you could tell also Elise and Eze were just on a different level to anyone else on the pitch. And they had Mateta to like play off. He's like the big target man, and all he needs to do really is lay it off to them two. You could tell the quality difference, and I think that's what it came down to. I think we played okay first half. Lewis Potter had another chance, I think, which is fairly similar from another Ruslev cross. So you can see what we were trying to do, that diagonal to one of the fullbacks and then get it in the box. It was nice to have our midfield three back, which is potentially our best midfield three. So that maybe gave us a bit more control. But yeah, start of the second half especially, we just didn't really show up.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually nice to see Ruslev with the bit between his teeth. I thought in that first kind of 25-minute spell, trotting down that right, he was showing pace that I didn't know he had, and obviously he gets the assist for the goal as well. Just a shame that he couldn't really sustain it in the second half. Any complaints with how we lined up, Craig? I know a few people were sort of angling for Damsgaard to be a starter after his few impressive performances in the games prior, and I know you're a big fan of his. So did you have any complaints with how he lined up?
I wouldn't say I have any complaints with the way that we lined up. I kind of was in the same boat where I expected Damsgaard to play, and I think I kind of would have been more confident with Janel as left wing back instead of Godos, because he's just a bit more defensively minded than he is. But I wouldn't say I have any complaints with it. Just to add to your comments on Ruslev, recently I found that, well, a few people I've spoken to about him have found that if the ball is played to his feet, he's negative always. Always wants to go sideways, always wants to go backwards. If it's played in front of him, he's so attacking. So attacking. He'll take it in his stride. He'll try and beat a man. He'll get past the defenders. It was in front of him for that cross from Jensen. He had a bit of pace. He got onto the ball. But it just feels like it has to be played in front of him for him to do anything. Otherwise, it's going backwards.
Yeah, we've spoken about Roslev quite a lot on this podcast. I mean, he is a very good player, and I really want him to do well. But I feel like he lacks the pace to start in the team. I feel like, and you can see that the fullbacks, especially, there's such a big gap in quality between Rico Henry and Saman Ghoddos, or Vitaly Janelt, and Aaron Hickey and Mads Roslev. But I was a little bit. I thought it was a little bit strange that we started Roslev anyway, because we were in a kind of five, but we're so injury hamstrung at the moment. So it's just like any kind of lineup that we have, it's just you have to take it with a pinch of salt, because it's not the strongest lineup, and he's been forced to kind of play his hand. Go on.
Just to give credit where it's due, Vita and Salman have both stepped up and put in shifts for the positions that they've been put in with their wing backs. You've just compared like our probably best one of our best ever players in Rico Henry to two midfielders trying to cover his position, and I would rather Rico Henry than those two. You know, I would rather have him than two people in that position. He's that important to us, for me.
We're losing Ghoddos, aren't we? Yeah, he's going to the Asian Cup. I only found out the other day.
I know, we've got 4 players off during AFCON and an Asian Cup. Not like we needed any more. I think Kim Jong-soo is the other one, and then Wissa's off with Congo. Who else is going? Onyeka's off for Nigeria. Yeah.
While we're talking about him, he hasn't been mentioned yet, because obviously he came on against Palace. Callum will give me some grief for saying this as well. I think we missed him. I think he's a player we missed in the midfield over the last couple of games. Someone who's just going to throw themselves at the ball, throw themselves at it, is exactly what we needed against Wolves. And he would have slowed the game down. Yeah.
Against Wolves. Really, but we had all of the ball against Wolves, and he's notoriously shite with the ball at his feet.
Yeah. But because he's shite with the ball at his feet, it means we wouldn't. I just feel like. Look, I know it's probably I'm talking shit. I'm probably talking absolute waffle here, but I just feel like he's someone who throws himself at the ball. He's constantly on the move, and he creates a presence in midfield. We don't trust him with the ball at his feet, but he runs like you wouldn't believe it, and he throws himself at the ball. We needed someone over the last couple of games. And he falls over the ball, yeah. But at least when he falls over, he somehow gets a free kick every time. But I just feel like we missed someone who was taking initiative to throw themselves at it.
Yeah, and I think with Jensen as well, we had that kind of creative spark, someone that can stop on the ball and kind of pick a runner. And Frankie's always a willing runner, but I just don't have any confidence with him. If he's a willing runner, but when he actually gets the ball after running, I think I can take my mind back to one time. I think it was against Chelsea where he skins Koulibaly. Was it against Chelsea at home maybe last season or the season before, where he kind of skins Koulibaly, gets inside him, and then just fires a shot straight at the keeper? But I've never seen him carry the ball like after running onto the ball, carry the ball, get past someone, and actually do something with it. He'll either draw the foul or it will go down or it'll fall over. I'm not sure Frank Onyeka is the answer to the problem, especially against Wolves. I can see maybe against Palace, when they had a slightly more combative midfield, how he would kind of target that. And especially because I didn't think Janelt had the best game against Palace. But let's face the facts. We've now shipped 7 goals against teams who have notoriously struggled in front of goal, Dan. What's gone wrong? What's gone wrong with our defense besides the injuries? I mean, they must be working on this in training all the time, because we have conceded a carbon copy of that goal in sort of the last kind of 4 games that we've played, when it just goes over to the back stick and there's someone that's tapped it away. And I think it was just all too predictable against Palace. When he picked up that ball in the second half, you knew exactly what he was going to do and you knew he was going to score. So what's gone wrong? Before we get onto the bigger picture, because we will talk about relegation and January signings, but can we just try and maybe pinpoint what's gone wrong for the listeners?
Yeah, well, I think we tried to fix it because we tried to go to a 5, and obviously we wouldn't normally go 5 at Palace away. Normally, I think ultimately it's having wing backs, it's having midfielders at fullback or wing back. As hard working as Godos is, that's not his position. I doubt he'd ever thought 10 years ago that he'd be playing left back for Brentford in the Premier League. And Roslev too is a right back, but maybe we are playing slightly above his level. And I think often those goals where someone's caught at the far post, it's often, if you watch a replay, it's like someone's got in behind Godos or Roslev before they've noticed that they're there, and by the time they notice, they've got their head on the ball and it's gone in. Because obviously normally we're more solid defensively, and that's all I can think of. And obviously, if you have Hickey and Henry or even Aya a right back, that you trust them a bit more. They're more defensively minded. I think we tried to fix that against Palace by going with a 3, so they can make us more solid without the need for the wing backs to have to be as tight to the 2 centre backs. But even for 3 centre backs, it's hard for them to cover the whole width of the pitch. You still need the wing backs next to them. So yeah, I think that's an area. I think Thomas Frank said it as well. I think left back in particular is an area where we might look to get someone in short term, to tide us over.
Yeah, let's go bigger picture. January signings, Craig. Thomas Frank, as Dan just alluded to, said we need another fullback. Definitely agree with that, and he says we're going to try and sign a winger too. Is that enough to avoid being in relegation threat by the end of the season? Is what we need 2 signings in January?
I think if we can nail down no outgoings, then maybe 2 or 3 signings could be all we need. I've just wanted to bring him up because you've been talking about how we're a bit bare in the fullback position, and we've used him as, well, I say we've used him. We've had him as a sub the last couple of games, and it's Adi Doken. He's a B team player. He's a fullback. He's been on the bench the last couple of games. We've had a fullback fit and available probably since Rico got injured. He's only 20, but we've been confident enough to use Yama as a 19-year-old in midfield, Roslev as a youngster at right back. I'm just a bit confused as to why we haven't utilized the fact that we have a natural defender that we can call upon. But that's maybe a separate thing to talk about.
Well, if he's not ready, then he's not ready. I've not seen any games of him. I mean, if you could only presume that if the reason that he's not starting in his favoured position when we have such injury troubles in that area of the pitch is that Thomas Frank thinks he's not ready. And if we're still starting someone like Saman Ghoddos or Vitaliano at fullback, then maybe that's right. You know what I mean? I've not already. I didn't even. Well, I saw that he was on the bench against Palace, and maybe he'll feature against Wolves at home on Friday. But maybe it's just that he's not ready.
I just feel like with the way that things have gone recently, we've got nothing to lose by risking seeing how he performs. With the way that things have gone recently, we don't have anything to lose. 4-1 down at home to Wolves. I don't even know if he came on. If I'm being totally honest, as soon as that 4th went in, I left.
Yeah.
But like we've got an option, but I don't know why we're not taking that risk to try him out. Now, like you've just said, maybe Frank Thomas thinks he's a bit not quite there yet. And if that's the case, that's the case. We definitely need minimum 1 fullback this window, even if we just bring in a short loan, 6-month loan till the end of the season, solidify the defense a bit, get a bit of confidence going again amongst themselves. I think, like you've mentioned, Sharda being out for a little while, it might be worth having a look at another forward player. But I mean, thinking about it, we've got Josh, who's available for Wolves on Friday. That's come out and said he's available for Wolves. We've got Jensen back. We've got Jan out, back in his position. If Saman's going to play left back, we've got captain, we've got Damsgaard, we've got Baptiste who's injured again, or wherever the hell he's gone. I don't think we need a midfielder. I don't think we need a midfielder.
No.
I don't think we need a centre back. And with Ivan coming back, and I fully believe he will be our player come February 1st. I fully believe he'll be our player. With Ivan coming back, with Charlotte coming back in February, maybe a short-term loan for someone to come in and help up top. Couple of fullbacks and forward player, and then that's it. People suggesting to bring Kasper Schmeichel in on loan is stupid as well, by the way. I don't know if you've seen all that on Twitter. That's
just any stupid. Kind of player, any player suggestions that I see on Twitter are just fucking ridiculous. It's just like, what are the Brentford team going to see? The Brentford recruitment team are going to see this tweet and be like, oh yeah, no, this guy actually knows what to do. We should sign this bloke. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, this guy would be perfect for Brentford.
There's been one suggestion. I don't know if you guys have seen it, and it's one that I've gone, oh, actually, yeah. Do you know what? And I don't think we could agree any kind of deal for him. But is to bring Reguilon in until the end of the season from Spurs. He's just been recalled from Spurs because he wasn't playing really at United. See if we could get him on loan till the end of the season. If he wants to stay in London, ideal, perfect.
Yeah, I always thought he was quite good as well, to be fair. We should mention Brentford set to complete signing of Yunus Emre Konak from Turkish side Sivasspor, if I'm saying that right. Didn't want to butcher that if any Turkish people are listening. When he turns 18 next week, supposed to be really good. Turkish wonder kid. I've seen the term being banded around, and I think there are quite a few people after him, but I think that's one for the B team. And we've got a lot of players like that in the B team. We haven't seen anything of Ethan Brearley, who I was really excited about because I'd watched a few games of his when he was playing at his last club. And he looks really good. We haven't seen any of the South Korean centre-back that we signed over the summer. He's now going to the Asian Cup. And we probably won't see much of this guy until whenever he makes his debut. But another good one to have in the sort of books. And I've seen compilations, the thing that you do when you go and sign a new player and he looks the mustard. So that's a good one. You mentioned Ivan Toney, Craig. Dan, he's going to be back for the Forest game. But is he going to be looking at what's going on right now and thinking, what the fuck am I coming back into? Because it's just like a bit of a shambles at the moment. He must be watching at home, illegally or legally, if you've been watching the Snapchat story, if you've been watching his Instagram stories, just thinking, what am I going back into?
Yeah. Well, I guess we've got just over 2 weeks before the Forest game. So there's time to get people in. I think down in the middle of the pitch, centre mid, up front, centre back, in goal, arguably, we're sorted, and it's out wide, whether it's in the forward areas or at full back. It's out wide where we're struggling. That's probably why we're not seeing certain B team players, because if they play in the middle of the field, we're doing all right there. I like to think Ivan Toney thinks he owes us something. I like to think we've stuck by him. He can give us 6 months, and if he wants to get into this England squad, the best thing he can probably do is stay and help us stay up. Because if he does leave, if he was to leave in January, he might not play every game. It might take him a while to get into the team. I'd like to think he's sat at home very determined to try and get himself into this World Cup squad. He's not been injured, so he should be in good shape. He's played a few B team games. I'm really hoping that he will step up from the get-go against Forest. I don't want to be just relying on him. I don't think we should be just relying on him. I think we should look at getting a couple more in as well for that Forest game. But yeah, I think he owes us. And obviously he's been there at the training ground every day. He knows what the squad is suffering with. He knows that, we're in a bit of trouble at the moment with injuries. I'm sure he still has friends in the changing room. I'm sure, he wants to help us. And yeah, we can only hope he does, and we can only hope that he scores a good amount of goals between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, I think when we have him back, and I'm still hesitant to say we're in a relegation scrap because I don't think we are, and I don't think it's arrogant to say that we're too good to go down in terms of the players that we've got coming back, like Ivan Toney, like Kevin Schade, like Jensen, who's back to fitness, like De Silva, like Henry, like all of the fucking players that we've got missing at the moment. When they do come back, if they do come back, I would say we'll definitely have more than enough to stay in this league. Craig, the only thing I'm worried about is that Forest seem to have turned it around under Nuno. I know that the new manager bounce will never last forever, but they've won the 2 games since he's come in. Fulham look like they could win one week and get battered the next week, but they still look like they beat West Ham 5-0 the other day. They beat Arsenal the other day. Luton look like they're going to fight until the last day as well. But I think the only thing that might save us is that Burnley and Sheffield, well, especially Sheffield United, just look so bad. But that still puts up 2 that might be up for grabs come the end of the season. So, what are you worried at the moment? How are you thinking going into this? Well, going into the second half of the season.
Current form should worry anyone. Should worry anyone. 1 win in 7, 6 defeats out of the last 7, 5 on the bounce that we've lost now. That next win can't come soon enough. Even if it's against Wolves on Friday in the cup, that next win cannot come soon enough. I posted on Twitter and a few people seem to agree with me. Do I think we'll go down? No. But do I think we're being dragged into a relegation battle? Yes. With current form.
That was at the end. Okay, I thought you were going to carry on there.
Fair enough.
Carry on.
We have to be. Only Everton are between us and the relegation zone. And if you gave them their 10 points back, we'd be the next one. We'd be the one that Luton are trying to hunt down now. The only danger for me is if some of these players don't come back, or it takes a bit longer, or if we lose a couple more, then you never know. You never know what could happen. I'm confident with our best team, we'd be okay, but we don't know when our best team is going to be available again. I mean, someone like Rico Henry probably won't be available again. So that's the difficulty. But yeah, normally I like to sit back and just enjoy it. And we want to be fighting for Europe. And if we don't get it, so what? It looks like it might be a bit different this year. And we'll be fighting for something more important, just to stay in the league, which just make me a bit more anxious. But we just got to deal with it. It's too early to draw any conclusions now.
I think our saving grace, you need to look at the fact that we've lost 6 out of the last 7 and we are still 4 points above the bottom 3. It just shows that, unfortunately, there is a lack of quality in the Premier League this season at the bottom end of the table, which is going to be our saving grace. When you're in form like this, the way that we are, and you're still 4 points out above the bottom 3 after this amount of games, you've got to take that with some kind of success with the injuries that we've had. And Mike, I think you're spot on, mate, with the way that things are going and the players that we've got coming back. I don't think we have anything to worry about. I do have a friend close with the club, and he has said that we expect to have a very busy January with no outgoings. So I hope that what it's saying is true, because we can't afford, unless we've said it so many times, unless someone wants to offer £100 million for Ivan Toney, he's not going anywhere. But you can't turn down that kind of money anyway, can you?
No.
So fingers crossed what he's saying is right. Yeah.
Well,
now
because there's a delay when we record online. Honestly, sometimes you talk and then I feel like you stopped talking ages ago, and then honestly, it's just a bit messy when we do things online, people. But anyway, I feel like we've said before that maybe it's a bit boring being in the Premier League, so maybe we get a little relegation fight going on this year. Go to the last day and there's something riding on it instead of kind of languishing in mid-table. But who knows? Yeah, no, Dan does not want that. I wouldn't mind doing the last game with a little bit going in. Mate, I did quite miss going in the Championship and winning every game. That was fun. But I think that'll be. I'm joking, guys. I'm joking. I don't want to get relegated. I don't want to get relegated. Just a little bit of jeopardy. Maybe, squeaky bum time. That would be quite entertaining. The head loss would be hilarious on Twitter. I'd have a field day. It'd be great. But anyway, I think that might be a good place to wrap up the podcast. Remember, guys, please do drop the comments if you're watching on YouTube. We've been trying to make this a kind of community within the fan base, and I see all the comments that have been dropped on the last couple of videos, and we really appreciate it. And we want you to kind of give us your opinions. How do you feel about the injury crisis? Are we in a relegation fight? Who do you think we should sign in Jan? Which positions do we need to strengthen? We'd love to hear it. So drop them in the comments and we'll take them into the next podcast that we do whenever we do that. The Ealing Red podcast will be back with a Forest preview for sure. I've already lined that up with a Forest podcast. as well as a special episode, maybe next week, probably the week after. But we just need to do a bit of final prep for that. So stay tuned across our socials for any updates. And just before we leave, guys, like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, remember to comment down below ahead of the Wolves game on Friday, which would be tomorrow at the time of recording, and Forest at home the following. Forest at home is 2 weeks after Friday, is it not?
There's a week off.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a week off. Yeah,
This
so
is
2 weeks after.
This is that winter break. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have a couple episodes in between that. Subscribe to the YouTube and the Spotify channels, leave a rating, and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Elim Road on Twitter and at Elim Road Pod on Instagram. Craig, Dan, I can't say it's been a pleasure. I don't like doing these episodes, especially when we're in the kind of run of form that we're in at the moment. But we'll see you next week regardless.
Up the beat.